This is Eric Rutan of Cannibal Corpse. You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast with Andrew McKay Smith.
Thanks for joining me for this conversation, which features Matt Wilcock from Antichrist, Imperium, Shotgun Mistress, Bremelin, and Werewolves. Matt is one of Australia's preeminent rock and metal guitarists, it must be said, so it's always a joy to catch up with him and find out what's been going on in his world. In this instance here, the catalyst has been brought about due to a new album from Werewolves titled From the Cave to the Grave, and it'll see the light of day via Prosthetic Records on June 24th, 2022. In the chat, of course, we dive into the intricacies of the album, but we talk guitar craft, Shotgun Mistress, which is a group which made my year-end of 2021 best of list. It made number 4. Wanted to find out how the recent tour across select cities in Australia went for the lads. And we talk about life in general, because Matt's just one of those fellas. He's a good bloke and I enjoy catching up with him. Now, before we get to the chat, let's have a listen to a song from the Cave to the Grave. The one I've selected is one that's in market right now. You can check out this one on Spotify. It is titled Crushing Heaven's Mandate. And once that song's done, we'll dive into the discussion. Let's go.
Foolish thoughts
Mate, how's things?
Good, man. How are you?
Mate, plugging away. I've just come from a swim, actually, so that's the way I get in exercise these days. So I'm feeling pretty good, to be honest with you, mate. After a bit of a bitch of a day at work, I work from home, but just want to.
Was that an ocean swim or a pool or?
No, we've had an Olympic pool and like a massive complex open up around us. You know, like this whole area I'm in now is one of the fastest growing regions in the country. So of course the council allocate all this money for these sort of resources, and thank God they've seen the light. And I'm I don't know how else to describe it. I'm a compulsive swimmer. I'm somebody who has to do it. I hate running, hate weights, all of that sort of stuff, but I'll swim all day. Okay. And they leave this one here open until 8 p.m. And of course you'd laugh at this. It's like 16 degrees or something like that, which is probably, a high for Melbourne during the summer day. But if nobody's in there, it's just me.
Yeah, right. It's freezing down here at the moment, man. It's bitterly cold. I mean, not in comparison to some parts of the world, I guess, but like the last, I guess maybe this last sort of week, it's really sort of fucking gotten cold. And I've actually got a cold at the moment. I've been at work all day just feeling awful. And so I went and did a COVID test, and it's not COVID, but I've been on a diet of hot toddies and whiskey, and I've got a cough at the moment. So I've come back to life a little bit. So it's all good.
Fantastic, mate. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Hey, just a quickie. What I meant to ask you this before when we caught up. I can't imagine how you fit everything in. So what do you do as a day job?
So this is quite amusing. Well, it's not amusing, but it's pretty interesting. So I'm a mortician. So I guess the actual term is I'm an embalmer.
Embalmer. Nice.
Yeah. So I
very interesting.
Yeah, I've been doing it for I guess it's got to be about 15 years or so now. So basically I'll prepare. I work for a funeral home, and I prepare the deceased for either viewings or maybe addressing or whatever maybe the families want. So some people want to have a viewing, like an open in church or an open in the chapel or some such sort of thing. And, other people don't. And either way, I'll prepare the deceased accordingly. So, it's been 15 years, and I started doing it in the UK. So I got the qualifications, did all the study and all that sort of stuff over there. And it's one of those things where once you're qualified, it's generally sort of recognised. I mean, it's a little bit different in America. Like the state to state, the laws differ in America. So sometimes the qualification doesn't translate that well to certain states in the US. But as far as England and Australia, all the sort of qualifications and requirements to be able to do the job are all the same as back and forth. So so I did it in England for about maybe 7 years, maybe a little bit more. And I've been back here now for over 7 years. So it's been another 7 years I've been working here. So it's good. It's a good job. It's interesting, and it's quite nice to, if someone passes away and they're, in a pretty poor condition, when someone that's 90 years old passes away from something like cancer, they're quite, they're quite wasted away. If I can sort of restore a bit of a normal appearance and make them look like they're asleep and peaceful, that can bring a great deal of comfort to people, So it's good.
Comfort and closure. I think what you're doing is an extremely important job. Yeah, I mean, I had to see my father like that in that state. It's very confronting. Yeah. He died 11 years ago or so now. And look, I'm not frightened about any of these things. God knows, I'm Catholic, right? So we used to, when a parish priest died, we used to go and have a look at him in the casket, this sort of thing. And but I think what you're doing is an extremely important job, and it's an interesting job that you do from the perspective of, when you meet somebody. And we have met, just for people listening, we have met. I can actually see you doing that job. Because it's interesting, because I work for the Uniting Church.
Right.
It's very, very different to what people, I used to work for Telstra for years, for about 15 years or so, but I'm a journalist and comms consultant these days. So I do that, and a lot of the time, if you go to the university, to the Uniting Church Queensland Facebook page, I do all of the socials, so you'll see me putting up Bible verses and stuff. And look, I don't look the way that I look at it is it's a job, to be honest, mate. And it's not that I don't enjoy doing it, but it's a job that I know brings a lot of meaning to some people's lives. And you're mature enough to understand that. I rarely share that. I don't think I've ever shared it on the show before. But you should be into Satan, man. It's like, oh, grow up, for God's sakes. Yeah. So how did the tour end up, mate? The shot. We'll talk about. Is it cool if we talk about Shotgun first, and then we'll jump into Werewolves?
Sure.
Again, just for the benefit of people listening, and I've mentioned it a couple of times on the show, blown away by what you guys put on, particularly your guitar playing. I didn't hear a note out of place the entire night from you, and you were playing some pretty fast and at times brutal stuff too, even though it is rock and roll. But, man, I know there wasn't that many people there on Brisbane is notorious whenever it rains, people stay away. It has to be sunny and all the rest of it. But how did the tour wash up? Did you feel it was a success?
Yeah, I think it was. We, I think like anything, when you go out and do a bunch of shows, you're always going to have, I guess they're going to be a baseline of generally they're going to be okay. Some are going to be killer and some are going to be, a bit crap. Ironically, the Brisbane one was, the crap one, quote unquote.
Really?
Yeah, there was. There was a few people there, and we sold a bit of merch, so it was cool. But the Gold Coast was better. Melbourne was killer. That was just this weekend gone. That was a really good show. And most of the others were pretty cool. Some of them were smaller attendances, but it was still good, and it was a good experience to sort of get out on the road with that band, because we haven't toured as such before, and it's a little bit different because it's not touring us out on the road for 3 weeks running, but long weekends each weekend, whatever, and then going home. But it was a positive experience. We ended. The second last show was Melbourne, and that was a killer show. And overall it was great. Electric Mary, like proper good dudes. It's really good to be out with them. The killer band. And it's great. So looking forward to whatever comes next in that world.
Yeah, my mate that you met that night, Dale, was raving about you guys too. He went there for Electric Mary, but said how great you guys were afterwards. And believe me, he's not the sort of guy that issues compliments easily, because he's, we're all musos, right? So, it's not impress me bro stuff or anything like that. But it was definitely what I loved about what you guys did was it's rock and roll, but it's got the intensity of heavy metal. And I've been looking for that sound now for a long time, being a dyed-in-the-wool metal fan, but also a rock fan. Yeah. And there's a couple of bands lately. There's Jack Frost and his Brothers in Arms project brings a lot of that intensity as well. Okay. And Voodoo Moonshine from Georgia. I've had a chat to Jeff. Jeff Lasoya from the band there. There's about 3 or 4 of you around at the moment. And whenever I hear anybody say that there are no good bands around these days, no good new bands, I just go, listen.
Yeah, there's a lot of good bands. If you just dig a little bit, you'll find, like in any genre, you'll find a lot of really good stuff. So yeah.
And you got your first show coming up this weekend with Werewolves, I understand.
It's not for a bit. It's
sorry, I thought it was this weekend.
No. It's a few weeks away. I think it's in Sydney on the 25th of June. I think. Uh-huh. So I don't know when this is gonna, it's gonna be on or whatever. But we've got a few in the pipeline now. We've got one in Sydney, which is I think the 25th, and one in Melbourne, which is the early July, and we've got one in early August in Melbourne again, and one later in the year in Adelaide. So we've got a few booked in. I think that's all at the moment. They've all been announced, so it's everything's cool to talk about or whatever. But it's good. We've been rehearsing and sort of getting in the zone, and pretty excited about it. It should be good, I think. Touch wood, I hope.
Well, versatility is your middle name on the guitar. So, but I will ask, do you have to adopt a different mindset when you're going from a band like Shotgun Mistress into Werewolves for the live stuff?
I just turn the gain up a little bit on the amp. It's pretty much the only difference. Yeah, I'm using the same guitar, which is quite funny. So I'm using the Gibson V for shotgun, and also using that for Werewolves as well, just because it kind of works for some reason. Like there's no solos, there's no lead playing in Werewolves. It's all just straight down the line, and it's like, you know what, I think I'll use this. But yeah, I mean, it's all pretty much the same. There's no real difference. I mean, the Werewolf stuff is Dave's playing drum-wise, he's playing everything to a click track. I think that's more his preference. You know, he's a bit more comfortable playing along to a click and just being, 100% on the money. But as far as me or Sam or just, I guess, the band in general, it feels good, and, touch wood, hopefully it'll come across good.
Oh, I'm sure it will. I'm a bit envious of people in Sydney, though, given they get to see you. And is it a Queensland thing? We don't necessarily reward the metal bands as well when you tour. Is that part of the reason why we're not on the initial jaunt?
I just don't think nothing's sort of come up yet. Like there's a few opportunities that have sort of arisen. So, but I mean, it's the same with Bremelin. So, me and Dave have got a bunch of shows sort of in various parts of the country with a Bremelin as well. But at the moment, nothing in Brisbane. So, I don't know. I don't know what it is. I know from previous sort of experience that, Queensland tends to be, I mean, put it this way, Melbourne is pretty much the highlight, and Sydney's usually cool as well. And funnily enough, the festivals in Adelaide, like, because we're playing one late, we've got one later in the year, and we just played, a Bremelin just played New Dead, and that was just incredible. It was really good. Maybe that's just a byproduct of, no one going to see any fucking shows for the last 2 years or whatever. Yeah. But it was killer. A lot of people there, and everyone loved it. Everyone had a great time. So it was really good.
Yeah, it wasn't quite Deadelaide, I think is the term, isn't it, for the touring things? It's look, I'd love to see all of the bands that you're in, actually, I'll definitely get to talk about the Werewolves album because I'm especially enjoying that. But I must mention if I can, that Antichrist Imperium album that you sent through, man. Holy shit! Amazing stuff. It's all there. I forgot about that one. Yeah, look, I've kept it under wraps. I listened to it in the car, but it's just an amazing album in that it's certainly not a criticism of Werewolves at all, but Werewolves is like a massive punch to the face, whereas you find that with Antichrist Imperium it's more like being stabbed slowly.
That's I guess that band, it's a little bit more, well, the short answer is I guess it's a prog sort of death metal kind of thing, But, it's not prog in the sense of like real prog music, but it's just a lot of, there's a lot of stuff in the mix, like clean guitars and samples and keyboards and clean vocals and everything up until like Mortician style death metal. It's all in there. So yeah, that's a whole different sort of kettle of fish, really, the album. But it's good. It's good that that's done. It's taken a long time. COVID sort of had quite a few negative effects on us getting that album done. So I think that's penciled in for a September release. But again, it's all a bit sort of, nothing's quite finalised yet.
Yeah, I'll get both of the albums on vinyl. I must say, the Werewolves album and also the that Antichrist Imperium album if it's released that way, cool. Because they, I'm sort of in the process. I don't know if you can see, I'm moving things into here from out there. With the kids are getting a bit boisterous these days and knocking things over. So I'm trying to move everything into the man cave and musician shed, as I call it. But look, that does bring me to the spotlight of our conversation, which is From the Cave to the Grave. Okay, so this is the new album from Werewolves. This is one of your bands, one of your mini bands. It is being released via Prosthetic Records on June 24th. I've been very fortunate. Thank you for sending it through in advance, because I've had it now for quite a while, and I've probably been listening to it at least 2 or 3 times a week.
Yeah, cool.
Okay. Enjoyed it. It's incredible. I'll share this with you. My I do the school drop-offs in the morning, and my nephew, who's 5, loves it, asks for it. It's you're indoctrinating them young, which is a beautiful thing, into the world of killer death metal. But the thing about this album is there's a lot of momentum carried through from the fact that it is the group's 3rd album, but it's your 4th release overall in 3 years. And it's just a killer escapade into hyper speed, death metal. I was trying to find a better descriptor for it, but I just can't. Hyperspeed death metal. And I don't think anybody else except for the great Eric Rutan could match you guys. Eternal. There are other bands out there I know that are doing the really fast thing, but not as intense. That white knuckle intensity. Yourselves and Rutan. I mean, you in particular, I mentioned it to you at the show. I'd love to see you and Rutan do something together because I think you're on par with each other that way.
That's a compliment, that is.
Well, you deserve it. You deserve it. And look, the thing that I love about your music, listening to it, is it's so tight that I think musicians that are not as capable as the three of you are, it might start to unravel a little bit because God knows I get sent a lot of stuff and you can hear that happening. It's been sort of patched together in Pro Tools or whatever the DAW is. I know that's not like that with you guys. You want to play it live so you actually get it right in the studio or when you're recording it separately or what have you, but you're getting it right on the recording as you would when you're playing it live. So my question for you after that fairly lengthy statement is the strategy to write as brutal music as possible but still keep it musical and intact?
I suppose it sort of is. A lot of the I think this band is maybe, even though it's all pretty down the line, just sort of death metal, I think it's a product of 20 odd years or probably longer really of just music. Like, so, I listen to so much different stuff, and while, like me listening to Stevie Nicks has no real bearing on fucking Werewolves, but subconsciously things like arrangement, just structure, dynamics. There's no fucking volume dynamics obviously in Werewolves, but in the sense of like maybe fast to slow to up to down to whatever, things like that are probably maybe just due to, and it's not just me, but the other two guys as well, just, all that sort of combined experience in bands and music and recording and all that sort of crap. It might have it probably has an effect on the song sort of being a bit more important than just the savagery. So the violence and the aggression, that's obviously that's there. But at the same time, I guess we're just trying to make sure that the songs are solid as well. So it can be like, Dave's got a comfortable BPM where he knows, he can blast proper fast, but he's got there's a tempo range where he knows that it'll be violent, like where his kicks can fly and his blasts can also fly, but it's not too much. Like you don't lose a groove because it's not, it's the speed of light. You can't groove. There's no groove unless you start doing weird things on the cymbals and that. And then it's like, well, then you start to lose a bit of the, you just want to slam to just fucking kick you in the face. But I think we've got the songwriting knack pretty much down with this band, and maybe the tempos as well. So it's fast, but it's not. It's not like Origin or. I'm sure there's a bunch of bands. There's a bunch of bands that are like the speed of light. And don't get me wrong, like I like Origin. I've toured with them years ago, and they're great guys. They're fucking killer musos, and I like the music. But Werewolves is quite obviously a different sort of thing to what, say, Origin is. So I think without sort of fucking blowing our own trumpet, I think we've kind of got the songwriting knack down for that style of music.
Great.
Maybe that's probably what maybe sets it apart a little bit or gives it a bit more impact. Yeah, I guess that's probably my explanation of it.
I totally agree with your summary there, by the way, that you do have the songwriting down pat, because what I love about your guitar playing is that it's brutal but musical. Okay, so there's melody in there, but it's brutal at the same time. And it's Ralph Santola is another fella that was able to do it. He came from more like a glam world and ended up in Deicide against all odds, and more or less revolutionised death metal in that way through his soloing, didn't you? You're doing something similar in that you get sick of hearing these bands that are quantized, and it just sounds like, effectively, it sounds like white noise. And I listen to a lot of cassettes, so. they
Nice.
separate the wheat from the chaff, because the bloody players are garbage. I've never heard a good cassette, to be honest with you. You listen to it for aesthetics, and if you're feeling a bit drunk or whatever, it just sort of hits you in a different way.
Yeah.
Different type of alcohols, I call it. But I love the fact that you keep it brutal yet musical. So my question after that would be, I think that you do that. So just after what you mentioned earlier there, how hard do you have to work at that? Is it something where you really have to sit down with a riff and sort it out before you start speeding it up, or does it come together differently?
It's probably a bit. I don't know how to put it. Like, I don't want to sound like I'm being a fucking smart ass, but this music comes to me very easily. So
yes,
I don't know. I just like these albums, like, I could write a Werewolves album, guitar wise, obviously, like, the other guys do the other parts, but, I can write an album in like 3 days of Werewolf stuff. And that's pretty much how it's happened with with all of them. Like, I think the first album, I did it in 4 days. The second one, I did it every day after work for like 10 or 11 days. And I can't remember this one, but all I know is we wrote the third and the fourth one at the same time. So we recorded, me and Dave. Well, yeah. So Dave did drums for 18 songs, not all at the same time. He might have like done he might do 5 songs and then do another 5 later and another 5 or whatever. But so we did. When I was doing guitars, I did 2 albums worth at once recording, and Sam came and played the bass for 18 songs in 2 days, which is fucking mind blowing that he can actually store 18 songs worth of riffs in his head and sort of produce them on demand. It's like fucking, I don't know how you do it, man, but I guess it's easy for me because I wrote them and you sort of record as I go, or, whatever it was that I do. But, so I don't know, like writing the songs, it's, if I pick up a guitar, like it might take me a bit to come up with a riff, but once I've got something, that's it. Then I can just do a song. And, even if that first thing isn't necessarily all that good, it's like, by the time I write another riff that goes with it and then another one, it's like, oh, fuck, now I'm there. So I could maybe scrap the first riff if it was a bit, subpar, and then work from the next ones. So it's not hard, but that's, again, it's not just me being fucking a smart ass about it. It's a product of, 20, 30 years of heavy metal, and playing guitar every day. And so, that's probably the vibe with writing and coming up with riffs and songs and shit.
Yeah. Well, you've obviously got the talent, but you've also put the work in. I mean, that's what they talk about with great sports people, as it is with great musicians. That's the meeting point. When you get to that point where it comes to you, where it just flows. It's, I can't remember which rugby league player I was listening to talk about that, but the amount of training that they did, they said that going onto the football pitch after all the training we've done, that's the easy bit. Okay, it can be intense at times, but it's probably the same in AFL if you follow AFL. I'm not sure, but it'd be the same if your training is really intense by the time you get out there on the pitch, or in your case in the studio or on stage. And that's the one thing that I noticed about watching you play live was it looks effortless. Even though it's intense, it doesn't look like as though you're outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah, well, that's also with that Shotgun Mistress. That's being rock music, it's a bit chilled guitar wise. I mean, there's the leads, I guess the solos are a bit involved and all that, but it's a bit more chilled out. But it's the same theory, though, isn't it? It's like a fighter. It's not that I don't just get up there and fight and destroy. It's like it's the 1,000 times they've thrown a jab cross in the gym before going up for the fight, So it's just practice and experience, I guess,
Well, practice and experience when it comes to contrasting the absolutely brutal with the slow burn, and you've done that really well on this album. Crushing Heaven's Mandate is just, mate, that's the punch to the face right there. That's the knockout blow. But then you follow it up with Harvester of the Skulls, which is just a slow burn in the way Cannibal Corpse did when skin becomes liquid, if you've heard that track before. You know the one? And I love that. I love that, it's just boom, boom, boom. I actually look forward to that when I'm driving in the car.
Yeah, cool.
I'm not going to call it a reprieve, but it's like a moment in time where it's like take a bit of a breath before the second half of the album kicks in. And I love the way you've introduced that dynamic to the album.
Yeah, well, that thing was because there was a slower song on the previous one as well, which we finished with. But I quite like it's like Slayer's Seasons of the Abyss, where you've got Dead Skin Mask like in the middle of the album, and it's like the whole thing's pretty just brutal all the time. So let's try putting something a bit slower and a little bit different in the middle, just to sort of split it up a little bit.
I like it a lot. Yeah, I to be honest, I'd like to hear more songs like that one there. I think you kind of done it with Antichrist, but just within the Werewolves thing, just to plant the seed maybe for the next album.
Yeah, cool. Well, there's another one like it's just not dissimilar to that because obviously we've already recorded it, but there is another one that's like so. The next album will have a I don't know if it'll be in the middle or at the end, or we won't open with it, but there is another sort of a bit of I'm not going to call it experimental, but let's just say a slower song.
I've spoken to you about this before, but the guitar instructional videos, I really implore you to do them, and just so as though people have some awareness of your incredible technique. But look, something else I want you to think about too is there's a lot of these, Instagram reels where they've got like a very, usually they're girls or kids or what have you, but guitarists and drummers playing like a classic song like Panama or whatever it might be. Yeah. I'd love to see yourself and Dave. I really do feel like you're both the preeminent musicians in your field in Australia within extreme metal. Definitely world class. I'd love to see you guys do something like a live stream event where you talk through some of the techniques you got, but together. Is that something that you've even contemplated after your seventh beer?
No, I don't think so. No, I don't think we do that. I mean, it's not really. I don't think it'd really quite be in Dave's character trait to do something like that. In the past I've taught guitar, so I'm quite open to, if someone messages me or whatever on Facebook or some shit about, something sort of guitar nerdery sort of stuff, I'm usually pretty happy to, talk a bit of shop with someone about guitar stuff. But I don't know. It's funny because like I sort of know and speak to a few like really, really good guitarists, and it kind of makes me think, well, fucking hell, there's fucking absolute monsters out there that you can sort of see on YouTube, or you can, get online lessons with or whatever. And it's like, well, I'm not really that kind of player. Like, I've got things that I do, but, it's like it's all about the right hand with me. So like any lead stuff that I do is always going to have like sort of picking at it. But it's like, well, you can watch me on YouTube, but really you just want to watch Paul Gilbert on YouTube. Because this is the best, or any other of the tens, hundreds of thousands of players. So, yeah, as far as videos and all that shit, I don't think it'd be a thing.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's always the people with the talent are modest. I like that. I like that. I do. I like that about you. I know you're a modest fella.
It's nice of you to say.
Yeah, I think it's your technique stands out from the perspective that, look, I do play guitar too, and I'm not a metal. I think, we had this conversation. I play funk and pop music and rock, basic rock, like Oz rock and stuff, because that's the lane that I've sort of fallen into. But your lane is extreme metal. And there are a few people out there doing it, but they don't have your the prestige that you've got, given all of the bands that you've been in, and aren't as necessarily relatable, because people can pick up any album or download any album, or stream, I should say, any album, and hear you across, how many releases you're on, 30 or something like that, more potentially at this point. But your incredibly crisp alternate picking technique. That's what I'm talking about. You got Eric, and you got guys like Trey from Morbid Angel, of course. And I think I mentioned this to no, I can't remember if I mentioned this to Eric or not, but so I won't say whether I did or I didn't, but I'll mention it to you now. I think that's a skill, that's an art. So even those great guitarists that you're talking about, the Tommy Emmanuels or whoever it might be, that's not necessarily something that's in their kit bag. But there are a lot of youth that listen to, they start with metalcore or Korn or whatever, but they quickly progress. They might hear a Deicide album or a Werewolves album and they go, wow, that's a different style of playing. And if you give them just a bit of a nugget, whether it be via an Instagram reel or what have you, you're giving them the inspiration, I think, to move on just a little bit further. As I say, I'll just plant the seed. But, Matt Heafy from Trivium's doing something similar on whatever the other social media platforms are out there. I don't think it's one of the big ones. But
Right.
and he earns a shitload of money apparently from doing it, just picking up the guitar and riffing and just showing off his technique.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I know it's a thing for sure, but I don't know. I just look at. I mean, I know that Herman Lee from Dragon Force, he's got a thing that he does, and he's a great player. So yeah, I don't know. I know what you're saying, and it's cool, and I get it, but I don't know if it's entirely my sort of scene, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, look, I'm an ideas man, so I tend to talk about these sorts of things and disregard them or otherwise. But I just think with your exceptional talent on the guitar, it's something that's worth sharing. And of course, you're doing that already. I mean, there's no question. I mean, you've got these fantastic albums. This recent album, of course, from Werewolves is the case in point. But because of your versatility, I think I can't really think of another guitarist like you that's got. You're in the rock lane with Shotgun Mistress. It's outstanding. You're in the extreme metal lane. God almighty. I mean, you just have to go into Encyclopedia Metallium to see your resume there. But I think you want to see people. You want to see people who are very good at what they're doing, acting as mentors, even from afar, to help the people who maybe need that bit of inspiration. Because I'll wrap this all up in this statement here. More people play guitars. More people were into music. More people were focused on, say, their creative pursuits. There'd be less wars, less bullshit, less conflict, less depression, all of this sort of stuff, and I think you play a very important role in that, whether you realise it or not, because without you, of course, all of these bands that you've been a part of don't necessarily happen.
Yeah. Yeah, cool, man. It's a good point, and it's nice of you to say as well.
No, it's all good. It's all good. I love you playing, so I thought I'd give you that feedback. But look, something else. I had a chat to Adelaide producer Jack Hartley not too long ago. You might know Jack, and he must have done some recording with Sean and yourself. But he told me that Sean Bean was the walking personification of death metal. Does that sound about right?
So Sam Bean, you mean, yeah?
Oh, it's a Sam. Let's say Sean Bean, did I?
That's
Why did I write that? Sorry, my bad. I'm going to fix my mistake there. I'll edit it later.
Yeah. So the thing with Sam is he's as far as like death metal goes, like there's no sort of singer that I would prefer to work with than him. Like, a great sort of bass player and muso in general. But he's such a good singer, such a good lyricist and vocalist, like his phrasing, his delivery. And his lyrics, like they're very sort of even with the whole thing with Werewolves is we're so not trying to be clever or smart, it's all just fucking it's all meant to be a kick in the teeth, But he still winds up lyrically doing stuff that's really quite clever. And he's good, but like he just gets in the studio because Jack's recorded. I think he's done all the vocals for Werewolves, and it's great. So the first album, I was over there as well, and Jack's on the money, and Sam just he does an album's worth in a day. When he's on point, like if he's a bit sick or if he's got a sore throat or if there's any sort of external factors, then maybe he has to split it over 2 sessions. But generally, he'll get an album's worth of vocals done in a day. And then, we'll get it all together and I'll send it back to him. And he'll listen and go, I could probably do this and this and this and this a bit better. So I'll book another few hours and I'll go back and just touch up a few bits here and there. And then that'll be it. So he just gets in there and just growls or screams or whatever and nails it like most of the time. So yeah, he's a death metal fiend, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, you could definitely tell. Yeah, lovely fella too, Jack. Actually, I had a really good, long and solid conversation with him. I'm probably going to hit him up to do my audiobook. The book that I wrote when we turned that into an audiobook. And I mean, look, I've got some stuff here, but the issue with me here, mate, is that I'm in semi-suburbia, so I've got dogs barking and everything else around me. And every time I want to I've got the time set aside to do the recording. Inevitably, that's when the dog barks or the kids are at home screaming at each other or something.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
You can't do it,
Yeah. No, you've got to I learned a long time ago that if you want to get something serious done properly, you just don't fuck around. Just go to a pro, get it done. Like there's things you can do on your own and things you can do at home, but it's like recording, for example. I can record my guitar at home and I can do this and I can do that, but I always take it somewhere like slick to get reamped and done properly. And then I would never, I'm quite good with Pro Tools, but I'll never dream of mixing anything because there's people that mix stuff that is just incredible, So yeah, that's the thing, man. Go and see him. He'll do a good job. It will turn out great.
Yeah, I know he will. I trust him. Yeah, he's a good bloke. He said a few things to me that really resonated when I had a chat to him, and I thought, no, you're the guy. And I haven't even looked at anybody else, but I just know that if I do it, it's going to be with him. So, but we've talked about Rutan a bit, but you mentioned that you want to, obviously you want to find the best in the biz to bring out all of the full colours, the musical colours that you bring. Have you thought about working with Rutan?
We've got a bit of an idea for so as well as just doing albums with Werewolves, we did that EP just recently, and we've got another idea for a recording. Whether it comes to fruition or not, I don't know, but we did all think because it's a bit of a novelty thing. We thought it'd be quite appropriate to get Rutan to fucking mix it. So I mean, yeah, it's all just sort of talk at the moment, but and it probably won't happen. But we were talking and thinking, if anyone should mix this particular project that the Werewolves are going to do, it might be quite funny to get him to do it. But whether it happens or not, I don't know. But yeah, I've got a fucking lot of time for that guy. He's I've met him several times over the years, like in different parts of the world, and he's always been a polite, good dude, and happy to sort of have a quick chat or whatever. And you can just from afar, you can just see his work ethic and what he does. You look at he's fucking played in Morbid Angel and Cannibal, and and Hate Eternal is fucking awesome. I love that band.
Unbelievable. Yeah, same. Yeah.
So yeah, between the music, the level of music that he's been involved in, and the work he's put into those sorts of bands in a performing and also in the studio sort of world, and also building up his own sort of, I guess, career in audio. It's very much an inspiration to me, like both playing and just work ethic. That's probably the biggest one. He's someone that really fucking pushes, which being in the heavy metal world, there's a lot of people that don't necessarily fucking work that hard or don't push,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I'm sure you and many people have been involved with those sorts of people over the years in your own endeavors and your own, not even just music, but we're talking about music. So yeah, but there's a lot of people that don't fucking particularly put in the work, and it's pretty frustrating. So when you see someone that really does put in the fucking hard graft, it's I don't know, it's always an inspiration to me, man.
I can confirm everything. Certainly in my experience, I don't know Eric, but I've had a number of interactions with him, over email and two lengthy conversations with him over Skype or Zoom, and he's just an awesome fella, very genuine, he's a pleasure to deal with. That's the easiest way to describe it. But something else you mentioned there too, I think I've mentioned this a few times on the show, but I've never actually played in a metal band before, even though I'm a muso. And I had experiences early on when I walked into rehearsal studios and found exactly what you're talking about. I'm pretty driven and motivated, want to get things done. If we turn up to rehearse, I don't really want to see some dickhead sitting in the corner with a billy, with a bowl. I hate that shit, mate. I mean, by all means, do it when you get home. I don't care about that, but learn the fucking material language, learn the fucking material, turn up. Let's the bolts should already be in. We just got to tighten the bolts up.
100%, man. 100%.
I got fed up with it and then started playing covers effectively. And covers, you get paid. So, of course, people are generally motivated. But even then, you still have troubles. But it was rife in metal bands from memory.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a shame because there's a lot of very talented, creative people out there. And, they don't necessarily all get to actually vent that creativity because they're too... I don't know, it's just because, they've got their, whatever it is in their lives that's preventing them from, pushing and working, So I don't know, it's just a shame. So that's why when from afar you see productive and proactive people, it's quite inspirational. So fucking hell, look at this dude. They're fucking, look how hard they work. Look how much they get done. Look how many albums they've appeared on or what the work that they do, So I think that's something like that is, that's a bit of an inspiration to that's something that sort of drives Werewolves a little bit. It's like fucking how much work can we get done, So the whole process has been that sort of mindset. It's like something starts, it's just like a ridiculous idea. Then it's like, well, hang on a second, we can fucking do it. So we, even with the first album, we just did it quick, just because that's just the way it happened. And then when we got the deal with Prosthetic, and it was 3 albums, and there was there was a few months until the first one was going to be released. So we're like, well, fucking, should we try and give them the second album before the first one's even released? So I don't know if we gave it to them, but we certainly finished it before the first one was released. And then it's like, well, should we just do the next one as well? And it's like, well, should we just do the next 2? And so it's just this sort of whole work ethic thing kind of fucking spiraled out of control, which is why we did the EP as well. Because it's like we had a word to them, and then we were like, well, if because obviously the label are going to have they can't just release an album of ours every 6 months. It's like, it's got to be at least a year, really. And so we said, well, can we, we've got the next album ready, but can we do an EP like independently or with you or whatever it was? And they're like, yeah, absolutely. So we're like, all right, well, we've got to wait another year for the next album to release. And why don't we just, we'll do like our own little EP type thing. And release that on vinyl in the downtime. So everything it all starts as a bit of a joke, but then it's like, all right, well, fucking, let's just get to work and get it done. And that's sort of been the whole mindset of this band, see how we come up with these ridiculous ideas and then go, all right, well, let's just fucking do it then,
Indeed, and we as the fans are the beneficiaries of it. So Prosthetic, they're based in the States or are they Australian?
Yeah, they're in the States, yeah.
So does that potentially open the door? Here's a tip. I'd love to see you guys tour with Morbid Angel. If any band could keep up with Morbid, it's you guys. I mean, is that even something where there's the door is slightly ajar for that opportunity?
Well, I wouldn't know so much about Morbid Angel given the state of them at the minute. But as far as the States goes, we've all had a little bit of a chat about the possibility of taking it sort of a step further. But, and I think, if the right thing sort of presents itself, then we may well look into it. So we've all tentatively sort of said, yeah, that would be cool, maybe to go to the States or whatever and do something. But then we've all kind of agreed, all right, well, let's just get these things in Oz done first. And if they're a success, then we'll look at the next step. Yeah. So, that's another thing with the band. It's like, we'll do one thing. And if it's a success, it's like, right, the next step, what's the next thing we can do? So the same applies with the live sort of thing. You know, we're quite well rehearsed at the moment. Things are sounding good. Got shows booked, so we'll play them. And if they're all going well and things are cool and it's all happening, then I guess we'll look at the next step and sort of see what happens there.
You would not be out of place on Maryland's Death Fest, the one that just happened, I think, last weekend. That would be a brilliant introduction to American audiences from the live perspective. So is that how do you? I mean, I'll ask the question. Do you know how you even get the attention of the promoters to be considered on a bill like that?
I suppose you probably got to have a bit more of a name. You know, I think we're building ourselves up a little bit in the States. But as far as I've not played any American festivals, I've done American tours, but not festivals. So I'm probably not the best person to ask. I know Dave's done a few things in the States. He's done a lot of European festivals. So yeah, I don't know. I think sometimes like these promoters, they might look at a band and go, all right, well, you know, what else are you doing? So, for example, if you've been doing like a run or two of the States and you've built yourself up in a bit of a live setting, then it's like, all right, well, you know, yeah, we'll get you on. But, you know, as far as just a band that maybe hasn't been to the States or isn't, you know, of a really sort of a higher level, yeah, it's probably a little bit hard. But, you know, all you can do is try and ask and see what happens.
Do you get the numbers from streaming services like I do with the podcast, and well over 50% of my audience is in the States, for example? It's probably the same thing for you guys, I'd imagine.
Yeah, we get them. There's, I guess, the States and Australia, and then probably the UK and various parts of Europe. So, yeah, the States is a big one.
Sweden. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's obviously it's all broken down, but yeah, I know that the States and Australia are the big ones. So, yeah, we'll see. You know, they put your songs on. If you're lucky, you get put onto a good playlist and blah, blah, blah. Oh, yeah. It gets heard however many tens of thousands of times. But, you know, what does it necessarily really translate to, you know? But we do all right with, I think we do all right with sort of physical sales, which is cool, you know? So, I mean, streaming's cool, I guess. You know, it's good to know that, all right, your song's been heard by however many times or by however many people or whatever. And it's great, but it's a little bit more satisfying to sort of look at the numbers of, you know, physical product that's being sold.
Yeah, that was interesting with my book, actually. I printed up about 30 books, and I think I sold initially, certainly sold far more books than I did ebooks, like physical copy. As soon as I put up and advertised that I had physical books available, just did a short run, whatever I would have. It cost me far more to produce them than it did to sell them. But I just did it just for the experience. Yeah, they went bang straight away. I was lucky to keep my own.
Yeah, that's really interesting, I think. I'm not much of a book person, but it comes down to time, really. Like, I've not actually got the time to sort of read books, you know, between everything else that I do. Yeah. I don't really listen to audiobooks. I listen to a lot of podcasts. But, yeah, I don't know. I find it quite interesting that the physical copies have sold so well, you know.
Well, it was people wanted.
It's a good thing.
Yeah, people wanted to, like, because a lot of, you probably find the same thing. People listen to you and then they start messaging you. And I find, look, to a person, they're all very, very cool people. Henk in the Netherlands, there's people in the States, the UK and Ireland. And you end up just realising that you're cut from the same cloth. It's just that we connect because I'm doing a podcast and talking to great musicians like you. And they were in a similar life position to us and to me, and you know, married a lot of the time, got kids and stuff, and they just love music as well. So we're sort of a bit of a community. And I think what they wanted was me to write something in the book just as a memento, if you like.
Yeah. And like a souvenir, you know?
Yeah, a souvenir. And I was happy to oblige, mate. You know, I was happy to oblige people because, you know, it's all a passion. Yours is a bit different because of the scale of it, but podcasting, God help you if you're trying to make money out of it. It ain't going to happen unless you're Joe Rogan.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and then there's endorsements and third parties, but you get even people like I'm not even saying I'm anywhere, by the way, but don't even have my listenership, and they try to insert ads into their shit and try to advertise things at the beginning of their fucking YouTube videos that have got like 12 views since like 2018, and you're like, just, you know what, just do it because you love it.
Yeah,
and anything like the thing is, like we've talked about, you get to talk to people like Rutan, and you get to talk to all these really cool people, you know, and you find out that when you sort of, you know, you go backstage and you meet these guys in Corrosion of Conformity, never, ever had a problem with any of, you know, always cool, always awesome. You've got these wonderful memories, and that's actually the currency.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also think it pays to be, like, you know, if you're like with you doing this, or, you know, probably a lot of other people, you know, it comes from a sort of a place of like, it's quite an honest thing to do. You know, it's usually, because I've listened to a fair few of your podcasts, and usually it's just a good chat, isn't it? You know,
so exactly what it is.
That's just like an honest exchange between a couple of people or whatever. And I think, you know, anyone that listens to these things, or, I mean, it's the same with music as well. Like if you're doing something honest, you know, you're going to get a selection of people that pick up on that and appreciate it because of that. I think, you know, honesty is like, you know, it's like you can't fake, you know, it's even with like Shotgun Mistress, it's like I started off with that, trying to do maybe more commercially sort of slightly tamer music. And I was like, well, fucking what am I doing? It's not me. It's not what I really want to do. So then it turned into a bit more of the heavier sort of thing. And it's like, I just say to people, if you're not being honest with yourself and, you know, like having conversations and stuff, people pick up on it. I'm sure of it, you know, and it just won't succeed. It won't win because it's not real, you know.
It isn't real. I think you've got to, in your heart, you've got to be a fan who truly enjoys it. And because there's no money in it, you're doing it because you do it anyway. And the benefit, as I say, is that you're talking to all of these wonderful musicians. And in my case, like first time I heard Eric was back in 1994 or 95, sorry, with Morbid Angel and Domination. And, you know, there are some crucial memories, like before sport game, you know, before rugby or soccer or something like that, like listening to this shit. And, you know, you sort of get, and you're talking to the guy who wrote Hate Work or what have you. You know, you're talking to the guy. There he is. And it's such an interesting experience. Like when I talked to Trey's mum, and I can't talk to Trey, so I asked his mother if she wanted to come on. Lovely, lovely lady. And yeah, she told me all of the things that I think were important to understand about Trey and his development. And when I shared that there's a pretty cool little Facebook group of Morbid Angel fans. You know, they're not like some of the other dickhead fans that are out there, but, you know, real fans, like, as I say, regular people, but they appreciated it. You know, it's just, you're curious, you're trying to get to the bottom of things, and you're just trying to explore things, and you're doing it in a way that's respectful because you're a fan, and to your point, because it's coming from an honest place. And I just want to keep on doing it like this because, you know, I've got a job, you know, I'm not even attempting to try to earn money from this. It's not even in my vocabulary. It's just, I don't even think you can, to be honest, mate. Like, I wouldn't know how. I mean, if anybody out there is listening knows how to make money out of a podcast without doing any of that bullshit, Patreon, and I don't ever want to ask people for money. You know what I mean? I hate that stuff because it's like, dude, really? You know, you want $2.50 from if you want $2.50 from somebody for a month for shit that you'd put out there anyway, that's just sad. Sorry, but that's my opinion.
Well.
You know, mate, I'll make this my last question for you. You mentioned up top Mortician. I thought that was interesting because I do have a question for you lined up about Mortician. I didn't even know that you played with Will. Okay.
Oh, right. So I think it says on certain places in the internet that I and various other people were in Mortician. So we weren't in Mortician. We were on tour with Mortician, and there was an incident of some sort. It's a long time ago, and I don't know what happened, but Will wound up getting detained by Polish police for some reason. I don't really remember exactly why. It was nothing untoward in the end. And, he got back to the States in good health. But anyway, so there was a few shows left on the tour, and there was two options. The tour could stop, or the tour could keep going, and financially it couldn't stop, for the guys that had come from the States. So Roger and Sam would get up and play, and a couple of us would help out, because obviously Will on bass and vocals wasn't there. So a couple of us would help out with vocals and bass. So so I, quote unquote, sort of played the bass on a few songs of Morticians for a few nights running. And some of the other guys sung and blah, blah, blah. So, I think, I don't know if it's Wikipedia or a fucking Metal Encyclopedia or some shit has written me down.
Encyclopedia Metallium has you in there. That's how I found it.
Yeah. Well, these websites have a bunch of things that aren't exactly. There's other stuff in there that's not quite true either about me. Just with bands that I haven't played in that I'm listed for and all that sort of shit. So, helped out for a few nights, and that's it.
I think in not in defence of them, but just to set the record straight, I think they said you were a live member, but still, I mean, there's been like, what's the bass player's name in the Rolling Stones? Sorry, magnificent bassist. I should know his name off the top of my head because I follow his Facebook page. Hey, he's been a live member now for about 30 years. Or something. Yeah, right. So that being a live member implies that you're really a member of a band, but not really, if that makes sense in some ways. So I thought there might have been a Will story in there, and of course there is, because he's an interesting cat. Yeah, and he's on my bucket list. I've got to say, Will a bit like some of them. You just give him the mic and say, "What do you want to talk about?" Go for it.
It'd be a good one. I'd love to hear it.
I hope it happens. Yeah, there's a few out there. There's a few out there like Will. I won't even mention them because I want to keep them as a surprise. That I might I'll put it this way: ongoing back and forth messages. I will mention one, Chris Barnes, who I haven't had a back and forth message with, but he's one that I'm definitely trying to track down. And Les from Cradle of Filth, the 1998 version of Cradle of Filth, is another one. You might have met him. He's a British guy that does the tour management, I think, now for Cradle of Filth and Paradise Lost and all of those sorts of bands.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I bet a lot of people, but my memory's not that good.
To be expected. Cool, mate. Thank you so much for the chat. Wonderful. Yeah, I've really enjoyed having this one here. I look forward to having the next one based on your killer creativity and the quality too. It's got to be said, is just magnificent. For anybody listening, get behind what Werewolves are doing. But Matt is in so many other killer bands. Shotgun Mistress, who I'm an enormous fan of. I think I've almost worn out that CD since you sent it up. and the kids love it too, mate. We listen to it in the car. Nice. The Antichrist Imperium, member of the Berzerker. Okay, a Bremelin, that's a band we didn't even talk about, but with Tim Aldridge and the lads there. I love the way you guys in Australia, you cream of the crop, you find each other and you find a way to make it work in the different bands and stuff. Because from my perspective as a fan, seeing you on stage here, which I haven't done yet, with Dave and then with Tim and a Bremelin, mate, that's something that I really look forward to.
Cool. Well, hopefully it happens sooner rather than later, man.
There he is, ladies and gentlemen, Matt Wilcock from Werewolves, Shotgun Mistress, Antichrist Imperium. He's been a member of Akercocke, the Berzerker. There's probably a few other bands in there. Of course, the other one, a Bremelin, another killer outfit. But fair to say he captured my attention with his performance on the rock-leaning Shotgun Mistress. Now, if you like that tune, there are plenty more tune. If you like that conversation, there are plenty more just like it over at scarsandguitars.com. You can dive into chats with is it the stars? Does that work? The leading lights. That sounds better. Of rock, death metal, black metal, and beyond. They're all there. If there's an episode that piques your interest and you want to have a chat to me about it, hey, I'm easily found on social media and via the website. Just hit me up. I'm always up for a bit of a chat about music. My name's Andrew Mackay-Smith, and I'm the host of the Scars and Guitars podcast. Until next time, it is a very goodbye for now.